Yes, I know you're wildly successful since 1980, how you did that, but is that going to evolve with the market and your competitors around you? Because if you don't watch out, your competitors will pass you.
Hey everyone, welcome to Crossroad Conversations with the Lewis Brothers, where we aim to share real stories about running a successful family business, working through adversity, and pouring back into the community that keeps our door open. We're your hosts, Matt, Shelby, and Taylor, and we bring you relevant local business advice and automotive insights that are sure to change the way you look at running a business, and maybe even throw in a plug for you to do business with us.
All right, welcome back, everybody. Episode 8, Crossroad Conversations with the Lewis Brothers. Hey, this week we're talking about shifting gears, evolving, and adapting with the modern market. And so we're going to kind of dive into all things that we think make sense and the kind of what we go through of our daily business of constant moving market. And that's the constant change is pretty much the only change. It's just always moving. How to be adaptable to change. So just because I said, here's what we're going to do, doesn't always mean just because it was, doesn't mean it always is. What happens when you don't adapt? And then all those other things. So we're going to move through that today and kind of unpack what we think our thoughts are of constant change, adapting with the modern market.
Man, that's going to be a great subject we talk about today, and I can't wait to get into that. But Shelby, before we get started there, I do have to tell the listeners, if they missed last week's intense episode about inventory turn, they have to go back and listen.
And you have to realize that it's not just about car inventory.
It is not. It's inventory. Everybody in business has inventory, and I'll try not to get on another rant here.
Just hit them with a quick
You've got to go listen to the other episode. We just want to help you be more efficient, make more money, and enjoy what you're doing better. So go back, listen to last week's episode on inventory term of time, which is labor, and then of your product as well. And let us show you how to mathematically make more money in your business. So go back, find that last week. Hey, make sure to check out our website where you find Crossroad Conversations with the Lewis Brothers. You'll find us on all the socials, whether it's TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, Google My Business page. And don't forget about our business page as well, which is lewissuperstore.com. And as always, on Saturday mornings, you can check out our live sales meeting. That's right. You go behind the scenes, our live sales meeting on our Facebook show and go. But let's dive into today's episode.
Hey, that's a good point. And as I was watching some of the previous episodes, like we throw a lot of socials at you.
We do.
So I want to point out our Saturday morning show and go. That's going to be on one of our business pages, which is Lewis Ford Sales or Lewis Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram. You'll see that. So make sure you click and follow those. So Saturday morning, you'll get that notification that we went live, but don't be looking for it on the Crossroad Conversations because you won't find it. But this week, driving, we're talking about electric.
Oh, we're electric. So what do we drive?
Ford F-150 Lightning.
Ooh, okay.
All electric. And so this one is sexy and fun because it's, did you know, not a fun fact that's in here, but the F-150 has been the number one selling, not truck. I mean, yes, it has been truck, but vehicle for the last 48 years in North America.
So if all of the vehicles sold in the U.S., every make, every model, every shape, every size, the F-150 is number one, not just like last year, but 40 years.
48 years they've been holding that crown. It's gone over 1 million. It's gone just sub 1 million per year in the United States. So they took everything they knew F-150 that statistically speaking, everyone loved. And they kept it all F-150. They took the motor out and they put electric powertrain in.
I think that's an important part before we go over kind of our favorites about the Lightning is their goal was as you got in the F-150 and it felt like an F-150.
That's the most important part. They didn't move things and it wasn't all Willy Wonka. Now there's some future tech in it, right? Like when you pop the hood, there's no engine. There's the frunk, right? So 320 miles of range. It's the Flash that we're driving. So it kind of took all the great things. It took the XLT price point, dual power seats, big 15-inch center stack cluster. It's got the extended range battery, 9.6 kilowatts of power on board to be able to. So if you think about your average generator, it's about a 5,000 watt. This is 9,600 watts of constant, so you can use that at home.
So what would you think, what if you had to pick one favorite about it, what would it be?
Yeah, really?
Yes.
Most truly and honestly is that every night when we go to bed, we plug this in, our phone.
Yes.
And we're never worried when we wake up the next morning, is my phone fully charged? And we know during the day it's going to make it throughout the day.
Yep.
It's the same thing with the lightning. So when you go to bed, that's the best time to charge it. I plug it in at home. It's the same thing as your dryer plug or water plug. Plug it in. I wake up knowing that it's a full charge and that you just... It's fun to drive.
It is. I would say my favorite part about the Lightning is not only the capability it gives you of all electric, but the capability it gives you to plug things into it.
Yeah.
So that's your house.
Yeah.
If you need battery backup for your house during a storm, that's if you're on the job website to connect all your tools, your air compressor. If you're tailgating, I love being able to have that extension of my truck to be able to do more work for me.
We've plugged a lot of things.
We really have. All right, so as we dive into today's an exciting yet important subject, as you talked to about in the intro. And we're talking about how do you adapt to change? I think we might be one of the poster child businesses to be able to talk about this. And not just because I think that we've had a very successful business, but because we've had 4 generations. We've had 78 years worth of business that we could have said, well, we've done it because we've always done it that way. How many times have we heard that?
A lot.
And that's usually where people like looking from the outside in, they're like, okay, I get that, but you can change. Like the world evolves. Systems change. Products change. The way we do business, the way we communicate, those things change. But we see it time and time again, especially unfortunately in a family business, that just because their grandfather or their father or whoever else did it that way, they're almost scared. I don't know if it's scared or hesitant or they've gotten too comfortable to be able to take that next step, which whoever their founder was took that step in the beginning to be able to evolve and make a path for their business. So that's really what we're talking about here is we get to talk about through the decades.
Yeah.
Through the decades, how have we not put the dinosaur, I like to call it, on the desk? And I heard a guy tell me early on in my career, he said, don't put the dinosaur on your desk where you just become extinct. You've got to be willing to change.
So I think looking into that, you say tradition for tradition's sake.
Sure.
Like more often than not that you say, hey, no, this is how we do it.
Yep.
We have a lot of that stuff in our family. We have a great family, like a grand family, and we do a lot of tradition stuff, right? Mm-hmm. But then it shouldn't be just because it doesn't mean it is. And I'm not saying throw tradition out the window, cut ties with your family. I'm saying, no, you have to understand that but then be adaptable.
So I think you can still use the word tradition. And I'm not going all the way to the dictionary here, but I'm going to help you. The word tradition, you can keep tradition. Like in our business, a tradition could be taking care of the customer.
Yes.
Having a great place for employees to work.
Yes.
And pouring back into the community.
But that changes of how you do it.
It sure does. But what you're doing doesn't have to change.
The idea stays the same. The execution changes.
It very does. And that's important. What Shelby just talked about right there, is that the idea stays the same. The execution is just different. Or the path maybe to get there. So we just want to get you to start thinking about that. Think about your business today of, yes, you might have been very successful and it might have gotten you to this level here, but will it get you to the next level? I heard a very, very successful entrepreneur talk about it one time. He said, sometimes you got to fire your old self to be able to go to the next level. That's the same thing in our business. Some of our processes or some of our systems, they were wildly successful. Like at our old store, for example.
Yeah.
They got us to where we needed to get to, but they might not get us to where we need to go.
Yeah. So we kind of made some bullet points of talking about this, and you'll see okay, so what yields change? Mm-hmm. Like what says, I should stop and inspect this?
The easiest way to put a thermometer in that is look at it from the customer's point. What is happening around you? How do consumers transact?
Okay.
How do they gather their information? What are they looking to? In our business, it's what a vehicle's a tool for them. You know what I mean? It provides transportation. Does that now look different? In the pickup, it sure does, doesn't it?
Yes.
We were growing up, a pickup was a single cab, 8-foot bed.
Yeah.
Now a pickup is a family vehicle. Mm-hmm. So what does that look like? How do you communicate with a customer, which we'll get to? How does that transaction take place?
Yeah.
So you've got to look at all of that. No different than if you go to the grocery store now, you might self-checkout, you might have grocery delivery, you might have grocery pickup. They've evolved with that as well. So if you're thinking about your business right now, I want you to think about those things. Think about, how do you communicate with your customer? Does anybody around you communicate differently, more efficiently? Okay. How do you serve up or deliver your product? Does that look different? Yes, I know you're wildly successful since 1980, how you did that, but is that going to evolve with the market and your competitors around you? Because if you don't watch out, your competitors will pass you.
Yeah, and you have that is so relevant, important of realizing that we've been in business for 78 years. I don't think that's overly valuable to just say a random person that moves in. Like you say, oh, we've been in business for 78 years. Like, okay, what does that mean for me? You know, so you have to, because there could be a brand new, we were talking about this on the way up. Think about car washes, like the old quarter car wash, and they realize like, yeah, they've been doing it a long time. It's only 50 cents. It gets it started. And you can like that. There's still a place for it, but then you see just constant membership service style car washes. So be careful not to, they say it's hard to see out of the forest when you're in the trees. Mm-hmm. You have to sometimes get outside of that and then look in, like you said, from customer's perspective and say, if I brought my car here to do X, what does that look like? I'm like, ooh, that's clunky.
I think you bring up a great point that is probably hard for a lot of people to swallow. Is just because you've been in business 78 years doesn't necessarily mean that's why somebody will do business with you. I think it enhances it.
Oh, yes.
You know what I mean? It gives some stability.
Yeah, there's depth in it, but
there is depth in it, and there's familiarity with it, and they know what you're about. But if you're so far behind the times and you haven't evolved on how people transact or how they get their goods or services, that only holds so much water.
We saw that in our old store. Mm-hmm. And look, the people weren't showing up. It's the same thing if you're in the food service, the food industry. Mm-hmm. People aren't just burning it. And we get all different levels of Google reviews galore. But generally, you and I talk about this. You go to a restaurant, order a hot dog, or you order steak, they bring you a hot dog. I'm just going to eat that hot dog.
I'm going to too.
And I'm just going to move on. And I'm not going back. I'm not going to leave a Google review. I'm not going to burn you on Yelp. I'm not going to be pissed off and ask for your manager. I'm just going to move on. So in our old store, we never even got the opportunity to say, no, we offer world-class experience. Let me show it to you. Because our old school tradition of what it looked like and what it looked like what we offered versus what we actually offered was completely different.
And we had to realize that because that same platform and that same store got us to where we are.
Yes.
It was the engine or the fuel that got us to the next level.
Yeah.
So don't forget about that. It's because you did X, Y, and Z that was wildly successful. That got you to where you are. Now it's time to shift gears. And you guys have probably heard this saying before, but every day you either get better or you get worse. You don't stay the same. Some people kind of scratch their head by that.
Yeah.
But you really do. Are you progressing forward? Or really, if you do stay the same, the reason you get worse is because everybody else is evolving. So how are you adapting? How are you adapting? What do your systems look like? Check the ego at the door, and you have to look at what your customer is doing, what the market's doing around you. How do you figure that out? We got to give a couple tips here. And then you've got to have a good sounding board outside of your business. Your sounding board cannot be your hourly employees. You know what I mean? It just can't.
Yeah.
Because they got a little bit of fear for their job.
Yeah.
So you've got to be able to ask outside people, hey, give me your honest opinion here. Where do you see our market going? Where do you see our service going? All right. And then you need to be listening and letting people pouring into you, just like this podcast.
Yeah.
Go search podcasts or whatever industry you're in. Be following those people on social to see how they're evolving. And then what do I do with our business?
Yes.
I think we've really dove into, hopefully listeners now know what we're talking about here.
Yeah.
Is how now we've got to give some context.
Yep. So things that we've seen, things that we've changed. So I'd say one of the first things was a delivery specialist.
What do you mean?
So when you buy a car,
Okay.
we saw the classic old school, hey, see, this is old school, but see the car,
Yep.
see the keys, see you later.
Yep.
Right? Salespeople got paid generally on production.
Sure.
And so when it came time after you've said yes on your car, you did the financing, the paperwork, you didn't get a good delivery experience.
Okay.
30,000 moving pieces on a car, you're not going to go through all those even with the best delivery specialist. But with technology these days, how to repair my phone and which phone is the dominant phone and how do I do this and what. So we removed that process from our salesperson team.
Okay.
We also took the process that was outside, so if it was cold or hot or rainy or dark or early or late,
Okay.
and we put it in the store.
Okay.
And so now we have an entire team that gets paid to go through your entire delivery of your vehicle. So after you've taken purchase of the vehicle, you still then have a person that's extremely excited, extremely passionate about the product, and is not concerned about finding their next customer.
Okay.
Their job is just started. And so then they're walking, think of it like a concierge service, but at the back end of the process. So then they're super excited whether you want 15 minutes or 3 hours
Okay.
or a follow-up of come back through, hey, write things down that you need help with. And inside our facility, you put your car inside of there and we get to go through the entire process.
Let's unpack that for the listeners just a little bit. You gave a brief overview, but I feel like we've got to dive in and show them how we identified the problem. So I'm going to rewind the tape a little bit to vehicles. Let's go back to the 1990s, really even the start of the 2000s. During delivery of a vehicle, you'd show them the owner's manual. We would show them how to set the clock
Yes.
on their radio, maybe the presets on the
Couple radio stations.
Okay. How to fuel it up.
Yeah.
Okay. And then when we got into the 2000s, we added programming your garage door opener and maybe a memory seat. That was it. That was the delivery process. So typically that was a 5 to 10 minute deal. So as the vehicle evolved, amenities that now we're talking about what? Not only connecting cell phones. I mean, you start thinking about all the technology, how to use all the safety features and the adaptive cruise and how to connect it to the app on your phone, how to get the app downloaded on your phone, how to connect this, how to connect that. Now we're talking about a delivery that could take 30 minutes to what? Hour and a half?
It could. Like, speaking of electric vehicles, okay, how do I, if let's say I'm traveling, how do I find the nearest charger? So then it's built-in connected services. It makes sense once it makes sense, right? But until you've used it's brand new product. So this team has really helped to be able to break that down. And they say, okay, let me show you how that would work. Hands-on experience. The owner's manual, it's a digital owner's manual. It's built into the screen. So we show them how to reference that and how to work through that. But it's generally an hour at least on average. And that's for the guy that's like, yeah, I've had a bunch of these. Just give me the keys. See you later. But we were on the edge of like, hey, we need to keep selling, we need to keep selling, we need to keep selling, but more and more technology. The Wagoneer last week that we drove, we talked about
so much stuff.
I forget the stat, but it was like 87 inches of screen.
Yeah.
On this side, this side, this side, this side. You could spend a whole vacation trying to figure out how to fix what you broke or how to make this work. Or the question or the statement I hear from customers that I love so much is when you can tell them about a feature and they're like, I didn't know I had that on my last car.
I know. It's
like,
so good.
You know, it's like, we talk about this often, how easy it is to be good in simple business. But that was one of those things that our delivery specialist is able to take time. Actually, they're not checking their clock. They're not saying, hey, I need another customer. They are fully going into the delivery process.
So that's the next piece of it, listeners. Hopefully you've grasped a hold is the vehicle. We're using this as an example of it's evolved from changing your clock to complete hour and a half delivery. Now, if you required the same person to do both of those jobs, our role in our positions in our business, a salesperson has a type A personality.
Yes.
Is very driven. They have a commission pay plan or an incentive pay plan.
Yeah.
So they're thinking in the back of their brain after they've made the sell.
Yeah.
How do I do what? Get the next sell.
Yeah.
That's not going to equal a calm, patient delivery, especially when they're trying to pair up an iPhone 6 and an iPhone 16 and an Android in between.
Yes.
So we identified that if we need a longer delivery, and then we need a different type person to do that, because we were going to get bad surveys and bad customer if we had the salesperson spending an hour and a half where out the corner of their eye they could see what? Another lotto.
Yeah. Here's my card. Call me if you have any questions.
Then we started looking for a different type personality to match that need. And where did we find some of those people?
Cell phone stores.
Okay.
Concierge service of just like taking care of people. Like people taking care of people. And we've seen that kind of across the board.
Sure.
But we've kind of found them from all different angles of...
And then our salespeople really liked it because it freed them up where they got to another opportunity. Yes. So it was pitched as a benefit.
Yeah.
Let me get you back to what you really enjoy doing. And I appreciate you helping us bridge the gap here, but let's get you to selling more. So higher productivity there, higher CSI. We found as the market evolved, we didn't just keep trying to cram it into the same corner.
We had to spend more money.
We did.
So that's what you have to think and see. We had to build the infrastructure for it, and we were building while we were building. But then we also said we have to hire more people. So that was something we had to realize, but it was something to stay relevant. So the next thing that we noticed was our service advisors. So our service advisors, they talk to a lot of people every single day.
So on the service advisor side, and I've got to give context so everybody understands, the service advisor is the communicator.
Yes.
They're the communicator between the customer, parts, technicians, or in a lot of cases, the warranty company.
Yes.
And that's the part we're really going to talk about here. If we go back again to the 2000s, the warranty company was really with the manufacturer.
Yes.
You weren't getting the call in 2001, 2002 about, hey, I'm calling about your extended warranty.
Nope.
You weren't getting the flyers in the mail if you'll think about that consumer.
Yeah.
Now, every single email, infomercial, phone call, everybody's trying to sell you an extended warranty, and they're coming from all different directions.
Yeah.
So I don't know how many extended warranty companies are out there. Hundreds.
There's a lot.
Hundreds. So before the service advisor, when your vehicle came in and you submitted a claim for warranty, that just happened digitally. Boom, it went through, keystrokes, so on and so forth. Now when you bring your vehicle in, if you have an extended warranty, we got to open that claim. We got to get a hold of that warranty company, which could be one of 100.
Yeah, most of the time people don't know who it's with.
They always think it's with the manufacturer.
I don't know, it's with Ford.
They do.
And so we gotta find out who it is.
We gotta figure out who it is. We probably don't have a relationship with them like our Ford rep or our Mopar rep. So we've got to figure out how are they going to communicate? How do we upload the documents? When they need more information, what do they need from us? How do we get that uploaded?
Yeah.
So this whole process is time consuming. When we started peeling the layers back, and just to give you guys some metrics, what it used to be is an average service advisor, their efficiency rate was about 15 to 17 repair orders in a day. That's where we found the threshold of they could be efficient, they could still communicate, they could get people in, they could get people out. But then we're starting to see at 15, 14 that customer service was dropping.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
The number one complaint we heard was they just didn't let me know what was going on.
It really did.
Even though the technician was still working on it. The parts were getting ordered. They were tearing it down. They were putting it together. The customer on the other side wanted to know, even if it took longer.
Sure.
Hey, this is Shelby. Just wanted to let you know it's taking a little longer than planned, but this is still covered. You are still good to go. It's going to be tomorrow instead of this afternoon. Just want to let you know. They couldn't do that because they were chasing Peter, Paul, Steve, Terry, and Larry.
I think it's important, listeners, for you guys to know, and I'm going to say this honestly here, just kind of be wide open, is we don't get everything right.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? We failed in this area for a while. And it was coming from top down going, they should be able to efficiently write 15 ROs a day. Why are you not communicating with the customer? Why are you not doing this? And as management top down, it was like, no, here's the metrics. Here's what NADA says. You should be able to do this. Go back to work. Go back to work.
It was frustrating because we're attached to every Google My Business or Yelp or whatever it is. And it's like, oh, these squeaky wheels. Like, what's going on? Like, your car had 200,000 miles. Like, it was busted before it came in. And so we get a Google review, and we're concerned about the overall well-being of the entire store and our name. And this person is advisor of this service team. And so we want to break that down and say what happened with this issue, how can we help with that customer, and how can we make sure we never lose an opportunity to learn and gain from that. And so many of them were communication. And so what do we do to fix
So
that?
finally, to do that, after this record just kept replaying at multiple stores, not just at one store, we pulled the advisors in. It was said, walk me through your day. What are you spending your time on?
Yeah.
What we identified is all these extended warranties, the amount of time they were having to spend on the phone with them, is that it was anywhere from 45 minutes to an hour per claim. So what was happening is if they had, let's say they opened up 15 ROs, and let's say half of those rolled to the next day.
Yeah.
7 of those rolled. I know that's not half, but we're not going to take 7.5. 7 of those rolled, and then it kept compounding. They're following up on these extended warranties because these companies, they're no different than an insurance company. You know, if there's a reason that they can't cover it, they're not going to.
Oh, yeah.
So they're asking you for photos. They're asking for teardowns. They're asking for the diag stuff. And we're uploading that. So this is just burning a service advisor's time. They see the phone ringing from the customer.
Yeah.
They see the customer coming up, but they're on the phone from the one that we've asked them about 3 days ago that customer's calling in because they hadn't gotten an answer. And they're like, hey, I bought the extended warranty. Why are we not getting this covered?
And so then it's just bad all around. As an employee, it was just like, I'm drowning, you know, because we're constantly telling people, come on in, come on in. We can take care of it. We can handle it. Technicians saying, hey, I need more work. We're hiring more technicians and all. But then the bottleneck was the service advisors. Yeah. And so the 3-day-old one, they're still trying to haggle with whoever insurance to try to get this thing covered.
Sure.
Then they have a customer standing at their desk and they have been for 4 minutes. And it's a lot of pressure. They're on the phone and they haven't been able to get a hold of this warranty company. So we had to remove that.
So we removed that. So what we did is then we got assistant advisors and then we got some clerks that what they did is they're the ones that were on the phone.
Yes.
They gathered the information from the advisor. So if they needed further diag, if they needed to go get from the technician, this or that. But they were the ones, on the phone for that 45 minutes or that hour following up. So that kept flowing.
Yeah.
Yet the advisor could keep communicating with either new customers or others that were calling in. So we figured out an obstacle there and said, okay, just like the delivery specials, we got to insert somebody else in here to help. One of the things that you can get caught up in as a business owner or a leader is just looking at the numbers. And for a while, we got caught up there because we were looking at what's our RO count a day. Yeah. Okay, we have capacity. How many ROs are they writing? They're not at capacity. What is not happening here?
Yeah.
Why are we getting complaints? Why is this or that? Sometimes you really have to pause. And you have to go get down at the ground level and peel back what we call all the layers of the onion to identify the problem.
And that was one of the things, one of the notes was like, hey, you just have to get down and hear how's the machine running, what's the, you're hearing the complaints from the customer side, but what about from your internal infrastructure side? And so that was like so easy, but it's not easy when you're not staring down at it. Like, why can't you do that? Why aren't you communicating? And they won't always be candid. We talked about this in previous episodes about the meeting after the meeting, but they won't really tell you exactly how it is because you maybe are their manager or their leader or the boss or the CEO. And you think, God, no, they tell me everything's good.
More than likely, I'll even compound on what you said. They'll tell you they don't have enough time because I heard that.
Yeah.
They never came to us and said, I need an assistant to call the extended warranty companies. The leader has to identify that. If you didn't hear the episode about listening, go back because this applies here too. So that meeting, we listened. Like, we hear you don't have enough time to be able to effectively handle all this customers. What's going on? Walk me through your day.
Yeah.
So until we said, walk me through your day, and then we shut up and we listened, we weren't able to peel back the layers of the onion to identify. It was with those extended warranty companies.
Yes.
To go, there it is, right there.
Yes.
There it is. Here's how we can fix it. So that's another, example in our business on how we adapted because we wanted more business, especially with the new facility. We want to be able to get all those claims from all those extended warranty companies, but we needed another layer to be able to help that.
Yeah. So one more thing that we talked about that we learned and adapted was services, and this was kind of something that popped up during COVID, and it has to do with the service department, but services that were not always at our dealership. And what's important about our dealership is the people, right? So all of our employees, you get to experience something different, right? We've talked about this before. There's 2,800 Ford dealers, and you can buy and service anywhere, but it's the experience and the culture. So we were super hesitant to this, but it's okay, right? Because we give convenience. And so we saw people that like Uber Eats, like you could take a $10 Taco Bell order, I don't know, $15, I don't know, whatever. And then they end up paying like $35, but they got to keep their time because they were able to order something that they couldn't get remotely and have it delivered to them. So they would pay for time and convenience. And so we even took that another step forward in partnership with some of the manufacturers, but we started we offered pickup and delivery. You know, and it was a COVID thing of like, hey, you stay at home. We're going to still work because we got to survive and figure this out. And your car still needs to be taken care of, like if something was broken or fixed. And so now we have a team, and that's something we offer. Unlike Uber Eats or no shade to them, but just like they have to be in business, we don't charge for any of that stuff.
It's a convenience item.
It's a convenience item. So when you're booking your next service, whether it be on the phone or our website, lewissuperstore.com, when you go to schedule service, there's a option that says, would you like to have your vehicle picked up or delivered? And you can do one side or the other. Like, so if you drop it off Sunday night and you got an appointment Monday morning, then you could say, hey, when you're done with that, can you just deliver it to me? So that was something that we learned to be adaptable to what was going on.
What they're seeing in whether their food's being delivered, their groceries are being delivered. You know, and Amazon really evolved in that way of being able to get that stuff of going, okay, how do we adapt to that?
And that was not, Amazon is a great point. They don't have that in-store culture. They don't have that in-store communication, but what they realized was that was not overly relevant in that situation. So then we realized it's okay because they had built their culture of generally pretty dependable, generally reliable. You know, we have good sources and you can generally count on us for 2 to how many ever days, you know, it may be. And so then they created that culture within that. And so then we had to adapt to that as well.
But that piece as well, we wrestled back and forth of what does that look like? You know, because a lot of it was called mobile service. And we still do offer mobile service, but we were trying to figure out what is the fit for an efficiency standpoint too. You know, we've got this huge facility that we can do anything in. We do have, you know, we got the van, we can go do stuff, but we really had to segment it out on going, hey, basic stuff we'll go do, but the rest of it, let's just pick it up and bring it back. Because at first, you know, the manufacturers really push us, just go do mobile service.
Most definitely, you know, and there's a segment for each one of those, and we have a mobile service vehicle. So when you're scheduling, you could say, hey, I want that as well. And then for oil changes or basic things, it's very good, but we hate to be in that situation and say, hey, Matt, we're going to come take care of this, this, and this. And we start taking it apart and we're like, shoot, we forgot something. Well, we've got 50,000+ square foot and years of the like, this pigtail, it looks like this has been chewed on. Like, we've got a whole tub full of those upstairs. We can cut this and fix that and you're good to go. In our van, we didn't have that. So we have to just realize that's the segment. But, you know, that's something that we do to combine between the two, over 350 experiences per month. Just in the Ford store that I know of that we offer to customers as convenience. And so we had to learn and adapt to that. If that was the only way that a customer would stick with us, is it when they were busy at work or busy at home that we could go to them and handle that, whether we're picking up and delivering their vehicle or we were mobily doing the work or like a recall. You know, we knew the recalls we could do in a driveway. We knew the ones that we could do at a person's home or work. And so we just attack with those.
I think that's a great example of the business of fixing, repairing, or maintaining the vehicle did not change. Just the path to getting there changed.
Same thing.
Pick up and deliver. Now back on, because everybody deals with how do you get your name out there? How do you get your product out there? What is your advertising? What does your marketing look like? And that's one of the things that has evolved greatly in our business. You know, if we go back to, you know, I work hand in hand with my father a little bit. My grandfather was really my really young age, but I can remember a little bit of him in the newspaper. But back then, especially in Northwest Arkansas, for sure in the 90s, 90s, it was probably the same way in the 80s and 70s, you could really guerrilla market and blanket the area with, if you took out an ad in the newspaper, and you had a little bit of radio and a little bit of TV, you could not really even strategically. Your strategic might have been, are you doing your ad on Saturday, on Sunday, or on Monday?
That's really when it came in. But you're talking, the radio stations, there was only X amount, so 3, 4, 5.
So you could handle all of them.
You could handle them all and say, hey, I want to do 10, 30 seconds a day. And then on Fridays and Saturdays, I want to do a couple minute segments.
Yes.
A newspaper, if you wanted to guerrilla market, you'd say, hey, give me the cover and give me the center.
That's right.
And I got it handled.
Yep. You could really handle all of it and not blow all your profit.
You didn't blow your profit, and it also didn't take a mastermind to fully figure it out.
It didn't.
You had to have good graphics and a good hook.
You had to have your offers. But today's world of digital, now you still have traditional. So everybody listen up. You always need a mix. We've got static billboards. We got digital billboards. They could go on and on.
Yeah.
But in today's digital world, and the way Northwest Arkansas has grown, you have to be a whole lot more strategic because you will blow all your profits. You can run yourself out of business.
You can. So when it flipped and brought in, you keep traditional and go digital, then you have Facebook and Instagram and you have YouTube and you have Google.
Yep.
And you have all of those.
Yes.
And they all are after you of, hey, boost this post.
Yes.
Or, hey, I could do this. And there's companies that are the middle companies that help you. And then you have ads that crawl. So if you ever clicked in, let's say you went to running warehouse, clicked on a set of shoes, then you jumped all the way back out, it follows you. So now your email on the side of it, you'll see, dang, there's those shoes again. And then you see it pop up. So there is a whole lot of tech that's really good, but you have to have some type of guideline because you can, like if you went just in a basic Facebook ad and said, I want to boost this thing, it'd say, the first question is how much do you want to spend? And so then you're like, I don't know. How far does that go? So you can say $200 and it shows you, hey, I'll go this far. And that's the map circle. And it'll run for 3 days. And like, I kind of need some more coverage than that. Like, hey, I need to pick up my service drive. I can do more oil changes. Sure. So like, hey, let's run an ad on this. And so you can drive that as much as you want. I don't know that there's a limit in there.
There's not, I promise.
And you just keep clicking and keep clicking and keep clicking it. And then you say, okay, I'm targeting these people. Then they say, what type of people? What age of people? What household income? All these things. Moral of the story is they'll take all of your money.
So the reason that changed, besides just the introducing of the internet, the reason that changed where you could outspend your revenue, let's call it that way, is because the audience grew so much. And we were talking about on the way up here, fishing is a great analogy, is before, we only had so much of a reach with the newspaper and the radio and this, that. With the internet, now we're talking about the entire U.S.
Yes.
We went from fishing in the pond where we could work the entire bank all the way around multiple times with different lures and hit every inch of the water, that now we're in the middle of the ocean.
And that's the tricky thing. Like, people constantly, you see tons and tons of influencers that social media, like, you can have hardly any education and hardly any business backing. You might not even have a local facility. We've talked about that before, and have a really good internet presence and be able to cast really far. The problem, or not the problem, the issue that we ran into is that we have to make sure that it's within our area, right?
That's right.
Because we're the in-person business. Right. So we can ship cars everywhere, but then they don't get to experience us. They don't get to come back and service it. And then there's still someone else out there that's willing to do it for less and less and less. So the trick is, okay, are you on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook? We can't ship a car through the phone. We talk about it all the time to put it in the shopping cart. And there's people that do it, right? Carvanas and all those. But they haven't overly honed in the craft, and they don't have, the customer experience thing. And if you need somebody to take care of you, they don't have that person. So we've had to be careful of fishing in the ocean to say, hey, let's spend a bunch of money on TikTok. Yeah. You can get a bunch of likes and follows, but then you get the stats and you're like, 30% of these people weren't even in North America.
That didn't point to any revenue. So there's the issue that as it's evolved, how did we adapt to it? Here's how we adapted to it. We had to have the correct mix and the correct tools in place. But just like all these others, we had to relook at our focus on what employees are doing what.
Yes.
So now we have somebody that's over our entire digital marketing. That person meets with us and looks at the overall budget. We look at our backyard.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to spend any money outside of our backyard until we've taken care of that.
Yeah.
I don't want to advertise even in Fort Smith or in Joplin if we have not taken care of in our backyard, because we know that there's a higher probability that if somebody buys from us in Fayetteville or Springdale, you know what I mean, or Farmington, that they're going to service with us.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll be excited about selling somebody a truck in Little Rock, but they're more than likely not going to drive all the way back up here for an oil change. So you first have to make sure you take care of your backyard. So we look at that first. We hone that in. Then we look at our demographics and we go, everybody likes cars, but let's narrow down the age gap for those that can buy. Okay. We know everybody could buy, but the majority, you can do the age gap there too. And you got to empower somebody over that and go, okay, we can't go all in on Facebook. We can't go all in on Google. Google will let you, they'll let you spend however many hundreds of thousands you want to, or millions a month.
Millions,
you know what I mean? And you got to say, what is that mix? What is that mix? Don't lose the traditional, have the other saying the same way. But as we looked at this evolving, we said, we need the people, the right person in place. We need the structure and the process. So again, we just adapted to it. We didn't just keep running the same newspaper ad.
And the good part about the people not being us.
Yes.
Is once again, it was an outside perspective of what we thought was work. And it's like, no, like I'm running this Zebco 33. I've got a Whopper Plopper. It's worked forever. And they're like, hey, I hate to tell you this, but 2 miles over here, they are using a cast net. And for every one throw or every 5 throws you're catching a fish, you're taking care of a customer. They're guerrilla marketing a different variant now.
Absolutely.
And they're able to really make. So that helps of a different person giving you a different perspective.
So we've given a couple examples. Of course, we've got hundreds in our business that we wanted to be able to share with you, drive the point home about evolving in your systems and your personnel and how you're adapting the business, even in a mature business like ours. So we talked about the delivery specialist. We talked about in service. We talked about service pickup and delivery. We talked about the advertising. Let's talk to the audience a little about what happens if you don't evolve. What happens if you don't adapt? And there's plenty of those examples out there. We want to drive some of them home so you really understand. And I'm not saying any of these businesses or any of these facilities that we're getting ready to say weren't wildly successful, but that didn't keep them going.
Yeah, and the rent's due every day.
Every day.
The rent's due every single day. I'm not talking about the physical rent. I'm talking about staying relevant.
It really is. And, we both, and some of the listeners out there might not know, but we've been into endurance sports and into running and this and that. And especially during the construction project, I wasn't able to run there as much as we were. And just because I could run 100 miles back then doesn't mean all of a sudden I could run 100 miles today.
Yes. Yeah. And it would show up every single day, of like, got to be relevant today.
But back then I could do it.
Yeah, like Uncle Rico. Like I used to throw the ball. Here's your ball. Let it out. Hey, let's go. I'll get on a bike and watch you try to run 100 miles again. So you got to be relevant every single day. And so we talked about that. What happens if you don't?
Okay.
And what generally happens is like if a business folds, it'll be like, their family or whoever be like, what happens? Like, I don't really know what happened because they didn't get outside of the forest. Didn't get
outside of it.
So think of Blockbuster.
Okay.
Blockbuster was a wildly successful, the idea that you could take a movie that you watched in the theater and bring it home to your house.
Yeah, that's a great example.
It was great. And then the idea of Netflix and Redbox kind of came around and they had the opportunity to kind of evolve in that.
They had the opportunity to purchase Netflix. Yeah. If you know the story. And we won't get deep into that story, but look it up sometime. They had the opportunity to purchase Netflix and they said, no, we're not interested.
And I think there's a big lesson to be learned there because it was like no our tradition says this is how we do it.
And this is how the consumer. But what you got to understand is if that's how you do it, you're not the one paying the bills. The customer funds your bank account.
I think that's so important to realize. You say, Shelby, you're driving an electric truck. I don't care what it is, right?
You're in business. You're not a collector.
I am not a collector. I'm in business. And if something is currently relevant, whether it's electric or whether it's something big or something small, or instead of actually giving them the movie, we say, hey, let's just sign you up for a service.
Yep.
And then you can watch from our whole library.
You've got to adapt to the consumer like we talked about. You already brought this one up, but I'll let you go in just a detail again. The car wash. We all remember growing up, the car wash, if we wanted to wash our car and it wasn't just at the house with a water hose, we went to the car wash, put the quarters in there, wash it ourselves.
Yeah.
It's hard to find one of those these days.
There's not many of them, and I think it's a convenience factor.
Yes.
And it's less of, once again, if you'd ran 100 miles, but then you hadn't in a while, why would I wash my car? If you don't know how to do it right, your shoes are going to get dirty.
Exactly.
You're going to be wearing whatever your car was wearing.
Yeah. So there's still car washes and there's still dirty cars.
Yeah.
But the way they do it now is a subscription service and you drive through. You guys have seen them. They're everywhere.
They're everywhere. And I promise you, those are way more expensive after we just built a couple car washes. Those are way more expensive than the quarter car washes.
For sure. Now let's go to the convenience store and the gas station. We all remember growing up. You guys can probably name them off.
Yeah.
The gas station you went to. Most of those in our areas, now you see the come and goes and you see the Casey's and this and that. That one that was successful, and just to your point, which was great earlier, just because they had been in business for 20 or 50 years, that's great. And that gets you the opportunity.
Yes.
But that doesn't necessarily give you the sale.
And you have to remember that opportunity, once again, happens every single day. And we talked about that in Northwest Arkansas as we just keep growing. Mm-hmm. It does, the name on our shirt, whether it be our name tag or the name of our company, it means nothing. You have to prove that every single day. So you're either relevant or not. You're either taking some care of someone or not.
Yes.
And if you'll do that every single day, our grandfather would always say, hey, take care of the customer and the rest will follow.
That's right.
So be relevant to get to the customer, to speak in their language. We talk about doing business with customers and we're like, hey, it needs to be on the CRM, right? Yes. But if you're getting communication via Instagram, don't say, hey, give me your phone number until you really have to have it. I have sold countless cars via Facebook Messenger or Instagram, and they're like, what's their phone number? I'm like, I don't know. I always communicate through Instagram with this person.
Because that's how they want to communicate.
Yeah.
You adapted to the customer. One of the great things that it just came to me that we talk about, we actually have to remind salespeople about this or managers about this, especially when a generation flips, is just because we did business forever with the parents or the grandparents, that gets us the opportunity for the next generation to prove ourselves, but it doesn't guarantee the sale.
No, you have to reprove yourself.
You do. And not just because they had bought 20 cars from you means it's a guarantee. And then some people get upset. They're like, well, they bought from us forever.
You can't get your feelings hurt. Those dollars have already been spent and the vehicle's already been used on separate occasions. So you have to realize that you have to do. So hopefully you're catching on that you have to be relevant and current what's trending and how it works there.
And hopefully you see the writing on the wall in our business. Over the past 3 years, for sure, has been the largest acquisitions from corporately owned, like the big auto nations, to family automotive businesses. There are so few family operated and owned dealerships left in this U.S. because they got to a part where they couldn't evolve anymore and the next generation couldn't take over and couldn't move, that then they just got gobbled up. The same things we see that happen in the car washes like you talked about, or the blockbusters, or the convenience store, or the circuit cities. So it's happening around you. You cannot lose focus of the customer.
The good news is it's your game to win, right? So
really
you have to make sure to do that. And one last thing that I'll point out that we realized was a salesperson that not all salespeople aren't the same.
Sure.
Right? So type A personality, B, C, whatever it is, and their personality, what drives them, is not all of them need to be on commission. Matter of fact, majority of them are not on commission. It's a salary base. And so adapt to, I want a I need a person that's been doing it for a long time. I need a person that's super excited about the product. I need a person that's super excited to take care of customers in the service. I just want somebody who talks to people over the phone. I want somebody that's good on the internet.
Yes.
And find all those peoples and then find there with them. We've talked about what's in it for me and what drives them, and flexible schedules.
Yes.
Which has been so hard in our basic, classic, old school business of no, we need to put the hours. And we talked about it last week of from ding to dong and all the hours. And like during COVID, we did split shifts and we're like half people work here, half people work here. And then we looked up, guess what? We were still grinding from day up to day down and all the things. It was like, okay, wait, hang on.
You got to be able to adapt. And I was going to bring that up. We can't even go. We don't have enough time left to go deep into that subject. But another one is how we've evolved internally.
Yeah.
You know, with our employees on time, on structure of pay plans, on benefits. That's a whole different episode there.
Yeah.
But as we get into it, let's go over some fun stuff here. So frequently asked questions, what we get asked the most of. I was thinking about this and it hit me the other day and I was like, man, I got a good one for this week's episode. What I get asked all the time, especially at the old store. Okay. How do you get the cars in the showroom?
People love that because if you hadn't been to the old store, so you had to go up steps in all areas.
Yes.
You had to go up steps, probably like 6 or 8 steps. So it was so that you could see the cars above the cars in the parking lot. So people would ask,
all the time.
How'd you get the cars?
So we had a ramp on the backside, but then the glass, it's almost like, think about your patio. You know, usually they fold 3 times and another one opens that they all move and we drive the cars through there.
Yeah.
You know, and it's just like anything else. Once you do it enough times, you get it figured out. But that's how the cars get in there.
Yeah. That's how you get them in. You got bifolding doors or tri-folding doors that you're able to get the car in there. So a lot of people ask nowadays, and this just came to me thinking about this, when do I change my oil?
That's really important. That question comes up. Now, the guide, when you look at the manufacturer's guide, it'll show anywhere from 5,000 to 7,500. Now, they also have an indicator inside that's predicting.
The duty cycle indicator.
The duty cycle. Now, those, especially with some of the hybrids, they can go really far. I always tell people, though, oil is pretty cheap insurance.
That's a really good point. So and it's okay because everyone knows differently.
It is.
And everyone was taught, you know, back in the old days, they pull the dipstick every time they change the oil. Yes. They'd check it and they would add more to it. I'm
not trying to upsell anybody here. I would say it's cheap insurance.
If they say duty cycle. So if you got a trailer hooked to it or a big heavy loader, you drive fast or always in hills, it's going to pop up sooner.
It is.
But if your light has not come on yet to change your oil, whether it's in your Ford Pass or it's on the dash, and you've gone more than 7,500 miles, an oil change is cheap insurance to keep your...
That's my line in the sand. If I've been using something hard, you know, it's that 3,000 to 5,000.
Don't wait till it pops.
But it's, you know, and I've got a plug-in hybrid van, so that means half the time it's an electric, and it's still, if I ran to the duty side, it'd be 14,000 miles. 7,500, you know, $100, it's pretty cheap insurance.
Yeah, absolutely.
But that's a good one. Yeah. So as we wrap up today, let's give a couple takeaways on a great subject, you know, as we talk about today, how to adapt, how to evolve. And I really feel like that the listeners would agree. We've got great context to talk about here because we could have said, hey, it's the way we did it in the 40s and 50s, you know, but it wouldn't have got us to where we are now. So what's one of the takeaways you've got?
Takeaway I would say is get outside opinions and advice on how to be relevant. You know, so it's not your opinion because we can all agree we need to stay relevant.
Yes.
And don't do things for tradition's sake. But and I'm not saying give it all to someone to be able to make the decisions, but get their opinion and their advice. And if you don't like it, throw it away, right? And get another person's opinion.
Yes.
But they will candidly tell you exactly how it looks outside of there while they're looking into your business or all the other businesses, and then you can do with it and make little adjustments along the way. And don't wait till something explodes to then figure out the problem.
Mine is remember the customer is the one funding your bank account. And to identify an issue or an opportunity, you have to be patient. You have to talk to your employees about it. And you have to be able to peel back the layers of the onion. When you first hear the issue, don't just chase that bouncing ball. Pause. Ask some more questions so we can get to the root of what actually was causing that.
Yeah, that's
you
good.
know. Hey, we're glad you joined us today talking about how to adapt, how to evolve in business here in Northwest Arkansas and beyond. As always, make sure to check us out on all the socials or our website, and please give us that feedback. If you've got subjects you want us to cover, shoot us an email, shoot us a text, find us out and about or on the website, or send us a message on the socials and let us know. We'd love to cover your subject.
Absolutely, and we're super excited. We've got some guests coming up, and so we know you love hearing from us. Maybe do, maybe don't. But we also have some guests coming in, maybe some history and maybe some new things coming. So tune in with us and follow along.
Hey, thanks for joining us today, and we hope you enjoyed this episode. Make sure to give it a like, share it with your friends and family, visit our website, and send us some questions. We want to know what you'd like to hear, who you'd like to hear from, and what you want to see. Or maybe even some questions for us to answer about either the automotive industry or just business in general.